Hello and welcome to our Pickleball injury prevention series. My name is Erin Perzewski. I'm the founder of Alkalign, and we focus on functional fitness and functional movement. So things that are practical for life and continuing to do the things you love to do. So we're going to focus on mostly mobility today. If you're interested in more of the strengthening component, you can check out some of our classes. Today, we're going to work on shoulders and trunk. So we're going to do shoulders, mid back, and low back. We're not doing a lot of core strengthening work, but if you again want any of that, you can attend some of our classes. I would start with the Align format. So for today's sequence, you need a squishy ball, some yoga tune-up balls. These are the massage therapy balls we use. If you're really tight in your shoulders and your back, I recommend the bigger set, or you can go with the medium set. And then if you've got a TheraBand, this is great. We're gonna do some shoulder flossing. If you don't have a TheraBand, you can either do this without a prop, or you could grab, like the belt off your bathrobe, or even a belt that you wear looped into your pants. That will help as well, as long as it's long enough. You also need a yoga block. Okay, we're gonna start in a standing position. Roll your shoulders back, roll your shoulders forward, and just notice what your mobility is like. Notice if there's a difference one side versus the other. You might not really notice it when you're doing the same thing with both sides. If you tried to go like this, maybe you would notice, but you'll probably notice a little bit more when we split this up one side versus the other. Okay, and then inhale, reach your arms up. First test, can you reach your hands above your head? Is that mobility different side to side? Having the shoulder mobility to just reach your hands above your head is not just important for pickleball, it's important for washing your hair, putting on a sweater, all of that. So reach up, lower down. Two more. Reach up, lower down. On this last one, reach up. Take a hold of your right wrist with your left hand. Take a big side stretch up and over to the left. Notice how you feel along your side body. Is there any tugging or pulling in your triceps, in your shoulder? Everything is connected. So pay attention to that, and then turn your torso upright. See if you have any stickiness along your ribs, and then switch sides. Go laterally, and then quarter turn your body up a little bit. Notice how that feels. And then release your hands, grab a block, and you can stay standing. I'm going to come down to my knees because I think you'll be able to see it a little bit better if my arms aren't reaching out of the screen. Hold the block in front of you like you're going to serve something on a silver platter. And then make sure that you're not hiking your shoulders, arching your back, or leaning back and flaring your ribs. So you want to maintain alignment, ears over shoulders, over hips, over knees. Pull your abdominals in, reach the block in front of you, and then just lift and lower your arms as much as you can without doing those things I just mentioned, without hiking the shoulders, flaring your ribs, arching your back, or leaning back. So you'll see with my range of motion, I can sort of see it's like eyebrow height, right? Just lift and lower that block a couple times. These are a set of checks. We're going to do some rolling and some stretching. We're going to come back to the rechecks. Okay, set that block down. Grab your TheraBand. I mentioned if you don't have a TheraBand, maybe the belt of a bathrobe will help. Take your hands a little bit wide, and then you're going to lift the band over your back and reach it forward. If your arms are too close together, you're going to be like this. It's going to be really hard. So take your hands a little bit wider and just notice in this range of motion how your shoulders feel. This is a mobility exercise. We do a lot of shoulder strengthening in our Align and our build classes. So if you find that you need shoulder strength to either prevent an injury or to rehab, be sure to check out those formats. As I mentioned at the beginning, we're mostly focusing on mobility work today. Okay, and then set the band down. Just notice how that felt. If you do a few more, you'll actually start to feel pretty tired in your shoulders. And then come to an all fours position. Hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips. You're gonna do something called a cat-cow. So take an inhale, extend your spine. Exhale, flex your spine. You are mobilizing through your spine. I talked about the trunk. Your trunk is sort of this whole area, shoulder girdle included, and your hips and low back. We are not doing abdominal specific core work today, and we're not doing a ton of strengthening, but all of that would be included in the trunk, and we do that in all of our class formats. So this is specifically related to pickleball and things you want to do for pickleball, but if you want to feel good in other parts of your life, definitely check out some of those classes. Okay, now we're going to do something called a thread the needle. So lift your left arm up, rotate to the left, look up. I'm going to lose my headband on this, and then take your left arm through and notice how much of your shoulder is in contact with the floor. I can get my shoulder all the way down, but sometimes people are up a little bit higher. Notice without judgment. This is your check. This is your baseline. This is your before picture. And then switch sides and go to the other side. Reach your right arm up, thread your right arm through. Okay, the pickle's on this side, so this is the harder side. If you're limited by the pickle on your head, take that off. And just notice how that feels. Notice what your rotation's like. Does anything feel sticky in your low back, your mid back, your neck? Notice what you notice. It's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be different every day. So just be patient. And then last but not least, for your checks, take your hands wider than your shoulders, slide your knees back. You can be on your toes, you can be on your knees, or you can come up to a wall. We're going to do a few push-ups. I just want you to notice what your range of motion is like and how your shoulders feel when you weight bear on your hands and you push the weight of your body away from gravity. Okay, so inhale, lower down, exhale, press up. So you can go knees down, you can lift your knees up. You need strength. This is testing weight bearing and also chest muscles. You need strength there as well for healthy shoulders. Everything in your body is connected. You can't just isolate one thing and expect it all to work. Last one, lower down and down, press up, shift your hips over your knees, slide your hands forward, melt your chest down. And again, this is a stretch for the mid back. You may have felt this in your rotation, your thread the needle, but notice how this feels in your mid back, and also notice how it feels here, kind of an insertion into your shoulder. Breathe into your stretches. And then coming up, we are going to start with perhaps my favorite rolling area in this part of the body. We call it the rolling pin, and it's really quick and efficient. You can do this anywhere you are. You do not have to be on the floor. I'll show you some options. If you're really tight in your back, and you might not know until you try, you're definitely going to want the bigger balls or the squishy ball. You can also, as you get used to this, you can use the two smaller balls, but whatever set you choose, you're going to put them right between your shoulder blades, right here. Okay, so horizontally across your back. We call this the rolling pin. So you can envision like a rolling pin. You're rolling out a pizza crust. In this case, your back is the pizza crust. So put those balls there. Take your hands behind your head. So the purpose here is not to pull your head forward like an old school high school sit-up, which is, by the way, terrible for your neck. But you want to cradle your very heavy head in your hand. So it kind of rests like a hammock. Lift your hips up a little bit and then start to push and pull with your feet. So that, oops, I'm getting tied up in my t-shirt. So move up and down. And if this is too intense, you'll notice it right away. Some people just in this laying down position, just trying to put their balls on the back. It's too intense. So you can take the balls to the wall. I can't exactly demonstrate it here because I have this bar that comes out from the wall, but if you're against the wall, put the balls here, go against the wall, and then you have less downward pressure on the back. You're in an upright position and you can distribute your load differently. You can push into the wall, you can lean against the wall, and you can bend your knees and move up and down, kind of like a wall sit. Go up and down. Just make sure your feet are far enough forward and you're not like this. You move your feet forward, push and pull, bonus quad strengthening exercise. So if you're on the ground, continue to roll, holding your head, but without pulling your chin forward. Imagine you've got a grapefruit between your chin and your chest, and you should be looking up at the ceiling, not looking down at your knees. So lift up and down. This is a good sweep. This is a good way to kind of just get the lay of the land. Notice where you're tight. You might notice it in the mid
back. You might notice closer to your shoulders. We do typically a lot of sitting throughout the day and our shoulders round forward, and that can put a lot of load in the upper back and your neck. So if you find a sticky spot, just kind of hang out and kind of chug back and forth. You can get longer sweeps. The more coordinated you get, the bigger the sweep you're going to get to do. When you first do this, it will feel really awkward. Even today, like just the way my shirt is, it's kind of the balls are getting rolled up there. So please don't get frustrated if you do this the first few times. You're like, this feels weird, feels awkward. It takes getting used to. All right, we're going to come back to something similar to this later, but rock and roll up. And you're going to take the balls out of the tote for a moment. Again, you can use a bigger set, and you're also going to need your block for this. We are going to roll the top of your shoulder. Setting this up in and of itself requires some shoulder mobility. So I'll show you a couple different ways to get into it. You're going to take your hand to the top of your shoulder and kind of dig down. You're going to feel this little ridge. It's called the spine of your scapula. A lot of muscle here. These are your trap muscles, and these are the muscles that are very strong because they're constantly in cold weather and stressful situations, texting, typing, looking at your phone. They're kind of creeping up by your ears. So they're overworked. Muscles kind of, things get a little thick here. So you're going to dig down and feel that little spine of the scapula. That's where the ball is going to go. But the tricky part of setting this up is that we're going to put a ball on either side. So this is how I would set it up, but it takes a moment. You also need your block close by. Okay, so we're going to put the balls there, lie down, lift your hips up, slide the block underneath. Now, if your shoulder mobility is limited, it's hard to do that. First of all, pay attention to that because if your mobility is limited doing this, it's definitely vulnerable when you're out playing pickleball and moving quickly and in a competitive situation. So if you have a hard time doing this, I would hold off on the pickleball until you've done a little bit more rehab. The other option to get into it is put the balls down on the ground first and then lie down on them. But it just takes a little bit of, trial and error to make them and get in the right spot. They do roll around a little bit. Sometimes people like to keep the balls in the tote. That's up to you. Okay, now lift your hips up and slide the block underneath your hips. You can go this height or this height, kind of the lowest height or the medium height. Basically, you're bridging your hips up so you have a little bit more downward pressure on the balls. Reach your arms up, palms face each other, and then just slowly start to walk your arms back and forth. And you can play around with the balls. Maybe they shifted left or right. Maybe they feel like they're going to slip out from underneath you. Rearrange. You want to be firmly planted into the balls so that they don't move as you move your arms. Now close your eyes and pay attention to how this feels. Do you notice any clicking, anything sticky or stuck? Or are things just moving seamlessly? All right, and then run your arms up, and you're going to call the seaweed arms or music festival arms. You're kind of just swaying side to side. And then for the functional, really practical part of this, you're going to do something you do all the time. Maybe it's wash your hair. Maybe it's put your suitcase in the overhead compartment. You're going to push something away from you, pull it back in. If you've taken some of our other class formats and you're used to doing, chest presses or shoulder work here, you can recreate some of those movements. This is where the art and the science kind of meet. You get to do a little interpretive rolling. I also like to move my arms like this that we did a little bit at the beginning when you're kind of just rolling your shoulders around. The other life activity I think about a lot with shoulders and all this work we're doing is swimming, right? You need a lot of shoulder mobility for swimming. You also need it for water polo, baseball, lots of things. But the second one that comes to mind after tennis and pickleball is swimming. So just notice when you roll the shoulders, you can do one at a time like you did at the very beginning. Notice if anything feels sticky or stuck. And then lift your hips up, slide the block out. And I'm going to come up and show you where we're going next. You're going to move the balls a little bit closer together. So instead of being here on the spine of the scapula, you're going to move the balls in almost so they're touching. If they're in the toe and touching, that's fine as well. And you're going to put them right at the base of your cervical spine. Your cervical spine is your neck. So you're not up on the base of your skull, but you're not down here either. You're somewhere in between. And you're gonna put the balls close together, cradle your head again, and lift your hips. And again, just chug up and down. So you might get a little tender part there. Everything is connected. Your shoulders are a ball and socket joint. They are very shallow and therefore very vulnerable to movement. So they require mobility, but also strength. If you want strength in your shoulders, a really balanced approach to strengthen your body, including your shoulders, take our Alkalign classes. We have Align classes that are more lightweight, body weight, and then we have a build class, which is the heavier weightlifting, but not intimidating. And then just chug up and down a little bit. Notice how it feels. You can pick a spot and just go side to side. And then come on up. Last thing on this side, we are going to go, before we go into low back, I'm going to have you do a little stretch. So don't let the balls go too far, but lie back down. And just notice how your back feels against the floor now that you've rolled your shoulders. Maybe compared to your low back, you might feel at least for me, I feel like my low back's really heavy on the ground. And I feel like my shoulders are a little bit lighter. So that's the difference. Like when you roll, your body feels kind of lighter and fluffier to itself. And imagine walking around the world lighter and fluffier than like, hug your knees in, rock side to side. Again, I haven't done anything to my low back, so it feels very anchored to the ground. Feels very heavy. Take your knees up and over to the right, both knees to the right. Take a gaze to the left and feel that stretch across your chest. We are going to do a little chest rolling because I mentioned that was important. But notice how you feel right here in your low back. This is called your QL. It's a muscle attaches your hips to your ribs. And when we sit a lot during the day, this muscle gets tugged and pulled and gets very cranky. So we're going to do a little rolling here. This tends to be a fan favorite, so stay tuned. Keep your knees up and over to the left. Do the same thing on the right. Notice if there's any tugging, pulling, any stretching across your chest. When anything's stretched, tugging, pulling, that's usually means your body's a lot closer to an injury, right? It doesn't like to be stiff and tight. It wants to kind of slide and glide. And then come back through center, rock and roll up. You need 2 balls for this. If you don't have them or it's too intense, you can also use a squishy ball. But you're going to put 1 ball on either side of your low back, between your hips and your ribs. I'm going to use the set because I already have them untoted, but I really do like the alpha set, the bigger set as well. Bend your knees, take your hands down by your side, and then just move your hips side to side. So you have this muscle called your quadratus lumborum. It runs parallel to your spine. There's 1 muscle on either side of your spine. And it attaches your lower body to your upper body. It also often overcompensates for the amount of flexion we're doing, meaning sitting where your knees are, you're in this 90-degree angle sitting in a chair. This movement side to side is called cross fibering the QL. You're kind of going across the grain and you can move the balls down closer to your pelvis. Sometimes I'm very tender there. You can move the balls up closer to the base of your ribs. Sometimes I'm tender there. It kind of depends on the day. But rolling your low back and strengthening the whole back body, your upper back, mid back, low back, is very, very important. I repeat, we're not doing the strengthening part today together in class. We're doing the rolling part. If you need core strength, which is not just your abdominals, it's also your back, includes your glutes and your whole shoulder girdle. Please take our Align classes. And once you feel comfortable with those, you can take the build classes. All right, just a few more moments side to side. So if this is just absolutely delightful for you and you want to stay here, go ahead and pause the video. You can do this while you're checking your phone. Great neck alignment, by the way, for checking your phone, reading a book, watching TV. You're not having your head forward and out of alignment like we are most of the time. Okay, take the balls out, rock and roll. Last thing we're going to roll for the health of our shoulders is the chest. I'm going to show you a couple different options for this, but before you took your hand over and found the spine of the scapula, now I want you to find your collarbone. A little easier to identify because it's this bony protrusion right here. So you're going to put the ball right underneath your collarbone right here. And if you don't have a ball, you can actually use your hand and give yourself a little massage. I also use this trick if I'm, for example, in the car, right? You don't want to have a ball out. What are you going to press into to roll? But if things feel tight or sticky, or I'm just feeling stressed, right? Sometimes we hold tension here. I just do this with my fingers. I go right under the collarbone and kind of massage in a circle. So that works too. If you don't have the balls, you can also use a squishy ball for this, especially if you have any scar tissue, anything going on here. This is a very gentle way to release tension, kind of break up scar tissue, improve your lymphatic system. Here, take the balls. I, again, like to use the bigger set because this is a little intense. And you're put the balls down on the ground like this, underneath your collarbone, and you're gonna rock side to side. The other reason I don't like the very small balls for this is because I just feel like my face is too close to the floor. Feels a little claustrophobic for me. So I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna untote this bigger set. And I'm gonna do it this way. So ball underneath your collarbone. See, my face has a little more room. You can take your arms back behind you and put them down by your side and just roll side to side. If this is too intense, use the squishy ball. You always have the option to do this one side at a time in a standing position. So you can come up to a standing position and put the block between yourself and the ball. I'll show you what that looks like. If you're on the floor, keep going. The block comes to the wall like this. You put the ball under your collarbone and then you address the wall like this, and you can move side to side and do all the arm movement we're going to do. This is, I wouldn't say it's necessarily less pressure. It's just you can control the pressure a little bit more. It's not just your body versus gravity. You have a little bit more agency and how much load to distribute. So go side to side here. And for me, this feels really tight. I did a workout earlier this week that involved chest presses, so perhaps that's why it's extra tight. I also did play some pickleball, which is very, uses a lot of upper body movement, so maybe that's why I feel a little tender. You never really know, but just notice how you feel and know that this time that you're spending rolling is really helpful. It generally helps everybody feel better. It's something that we don't normally prioritize because it doesn't burn calories and we feel like it's not worthy. But if you are into injury prevention and you value your body and go in the distance with as little, as few aches and pains as possible, a little rolling goes a long way. I roll side to side. This is very tight for me. And then you can play around with like arm movements. Just honestly, for me, being here today feels like enough. Another thing I like to do is to lift my arms up and lower them down. Lifting the hands puts a lot more load into the balls. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't. Let's figure out what works for you. You can do like a little doggy paddle. You can move your arms above your head like we did at the very beginning, right? We did the breath up, reach your arms up, lower down. I said if you can lift your arms above your head, you can wash your hair and put on a sweater. So if you're not able to do this, just something to take note of, something to work towards. Last one, look up. All right, set the balls aside. And we're going to come back to let's start with your cat-cow. So take an inhale, extend your spine. Exhale, flex your spine. So think back to when we did this before and notice how it feels now. Is your spine sliding and gliding a little bit better? Do you just feel more connected to this movement? And then come back to neutral. Lift your left arm up. Thread your left arm through. Rotate your torso. Notice if more of your shoulder is in contact with the floor. Notice if something else that you've rolled that you haven't rolled kind of creeps in. Sometimes, again, with the rolling, we release tension in one area and then we start noticing something that we didn't notice before because the dominant thing that was seeking our attention is now gone and now something else creeps up. Lift your right arm up, thread your right arm through. Just the fact that you're noticing any of this stuff is a huge win. Prevention is huge, and we don't spend enough time on prevention. And then we spend all this time and money desperately trying to fix the problem after it's occurred. Okay, flip on over to your back. Let's go back to that rotation stretch. Hug your knees into your chest. Take your knees to the right. And notice when you reach your left arm to the left, if you have more width across your chest, if more of your upper arm comes to the floor or closer to the floor, notice how this feels for your back. If we have a little more room in the QL, and then switch sides. So this is a lot of mobility work for your shoulders. Again, you need back strength, shoulder strength, chest strength. Join our strengthening classes for that. Align and build. And then come back up, rock and roll up, grab your block. You can come to standing. If it bugs you to be on your knees, you can come to your knees. Take the block in front of you. Remember the rules here, not lifting the shoulders, leaning back or flaring your ribs, but now lift and lower your arms and notice how that feels. Do you see the difference in my body? I can lift my arms up above my head. Here I was kind of stuck, but now I rolled the shoulders and the chest. My arms move much more freely. So think about how important that is, not just in life, right? Putting something in the overhead compartment, but also with pickleball, like reaching. I swear, even just doing this rolling helps me. I have kind of short arms. I'm a shorter stature person, helps me reach and like block those shots. So this comes in really handy. And then grab the band, reach the band in front of you and go back to that shoulder flossing and just notice if things are sliding and gliding a little bit better. This, again, this is a stretch mobility exercise, but it also is, when you do it long enough, you notice it is helping to strengthen as well. You get a little fatigued. All right, set the band down. I'm going to come to standing for the next thing just so we kind of end the way we started. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, lower your arms down. Do that again. Inhale, reach your arms up. Notice if your arms are flowing a little bit better. Notice if something that felt sticky or stuck has kind of disappeared. And then reach your arms up. Take a hold of your right wrist with your left hand. Take a side stretch. We didn't do any side seam specific rolling, but we did, and we didn't do triceps or a lot of other things that would help with this, but we did open up the chest and the shoulders. Turn your torso upright or towards the, not upright, towards the ceiling, and then switch sides. Lateral side seam stretch. Turn your body up, and then bring your hands by your side. Just roll your shoulders back, roll your shoulders forward, and then stand. And we call mountain pose in yoga. You soften your knees, just let your arms down by your side, ramp your head back, close your eyes, and notice how you feel. Maybe you're standing a little taller, maybe your chest is open, maybe you almost feel a little bit lighter now that you've rolled these things that kind of weigh us down, right? Our shoulders or chest, things kind of come forward and make our bodies feel heavier just by our stature. So now hopefully the rest of the day you can walk around with your chest open like you're just walking on air. It's going to help your posture and your pickle.